Hello, I'm Cindy Arenberg Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. While thousands of Broward youth excel in academics, athletics, and community service, we have also witnessed too many incidences of youth violence, some, unfortunately, grabbing national headlines. To reduce the incidence of all forms of youth violence, including bullying, in May 2010, the Children's Services Council partnered with the Broward County Children's Services Board and Broward County Schools to host a county-wide summit. Close to 200 policymakers, community leaders, and youth met to learn what factors cause youth violence and what works to promote positive youth behavior. Participants met in geographical groups to identify and commit to action steps to reduce violence. At the summit, the Choose Peace, Stop Violence campaign was launched in partnership with Project Bridge at the school board. And in addition, 211 Broward launched Teen Space 211, a website with information and resources for youth and families. Here with me to talk about progress on these endeavors and plans moving forward are Laurie Sallarulo, Chief Development and Strategic Officer for 211 Broward, and a member of the Broward County Children's Services Board, and Teri Triguba Williams, Prevention Specialist, Broward County Public Schools Office of Prevention Programs and Project Bridge. And later we will hear from Shahara Jagu, Director of Adult and Youth Training Initiatives for the United Way's Commission on Substance Abuse. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
This is such an important topic for Broward County and for our youth, and I'm so glad that you're here. The partnership that we've had between our agencies and the Children's Services Board has been terrific. Obviously, the school system has been on top of this issue for quite a while, and Project Bridge actually stems from a federal grant. Can you talk a little bit about the genesis of that?
Absolutely. It's interesting. A lot of people don't know about Project Bridge, but it is an amazing evolution, I think, that took place 3 years ago through a federal grant, Safe Schools, Healthy Students, and it was all about just what we're going to be talking about today, about the value of partnerships. We know we can't do it on our own, and so we have a core group of amazing community leaders working with us to help solve the problems that you identified.
I think one of the tragedies is that people tend to think, oh, government will handle everything, or I send my child to school and the school board is responsible for everything that happens. Right. But the positive thing in Broward is that we've recognized that's not true. The school system has reached out to the community. We have wonderful providers like 211 Broward that have stepped forward, and the United Way to partner in addressing the issue. Laurie, talk about how 211 got involved in this whole issue.
211 got involved. Well, we were part of the summit committee to put the summit together. And then we realized that there needed to be one central source, or gateway for that matter, actually both, a source of information for the communities to access once the summit was complete, and then also a gateway to information and resources for our youth, for the parents, for providers, teachers, counselors, and so forth. So there was definitely a need to have a hub or a portal, and it just seemed a natural fit for 211 to become that place. So.
Well, certainly. For those who don't know what 211 is and why that is such a natural fit, why don't you explain a little bit about that?
211 is the county's only comprehensive helpline for health and human services. It is the gateway to services. We provide support, education, assessment, information and referral to for any type of personal, financial, or family issue. And so, they say that the biggest challenge to getting help is knowing where to go for help. And so 211 is there for every single resident, free, 24 hours, 7 days a week, in order to help them access services.
And one of the wonderful things is your name is actually your phone number.
Our name is actually our phone number.
For anybody who's watching and needs to get services, just dial 211 and you will reach that gateway to everything, all your social service and human service needs.
Exactly.
So you wear two hats here. As both 211 Broward and as a member of the Children's Services Board, which many people in the county may not be aware of either. what is the Children's Services Board, and why would they care about the issue of teen violence?
Oh, they care very much. The Children's Services Board is an advisory board to the Commission on children's issues. Their areas of focus are, for this year at least, that's been determined and have been for quite a while, behavioral health issues, special needs, homeless child care, and subsidized child care. Those have been the areas of interest for them. And obviously, I mean, it's all about our youth and the issues that face our youth today. And it was pretty hard for us after a couple of meetings and a lot of the national incidences that you mentioned happened. It was hard for us not to want to get involved and try to be a part of the solution on this issue, because it was a major issue facing our community.
And we do know that the work that's been going on through the community has actually reduced youth crime. And I think that our viewers should be proud of that. But of course, any incidence is too many. And certainly the level of violence that we were seeing a year ago was unconscionable, and no one could sit by and watch that. And so the slogan, "Choose Peace," is so great. And tell us how that's being infused throughout the community.
Well, the Choose Peace, Stop Violence campaign, and it really is a campaign. We realize that you cannot have one event and make change, make real change, make long-term change. And so the beauty of the Choose Peace, Stop Violence campaign is that it is ongoing, that it is community-wide, and that it involves many agencies, students, youth, and the schools.
I know that before the summit, a lot of little pockets of groups were springing up saying, I've got to do something in my community, which is wonderful and something I found repeatedly in Broward. And what the summit did was bring people together so that they could work under one umbrella, but also by breaking up into the sort of local, regional groups, they could meet the other people who were addressing the issue in their community. And by adding the Choose Peace, Stop Violence as an overlay, gave them something that they could work with. And since that time, many different groups have been meeting regularly to get things done. And that is fabulous. And we're seeing some of that. I mean, wonderfully, the Jim Moran Foundation has stepped forward and is funding a couple of things. Laurie, you want to talk about that?
Just to go back for 1 second to kind of follow up on what Teri said. After the summit, we launched the Choose Peace, Stop Violence campaign. From there, the committee went back and said, okay, what are the goals and objectives of this initiative or this campaign? And so it was determined that there basically were three goals. And one was to educate, obviously, the community, make them aware of the issues and solutions and what was going on around the community. The second was to engage the community. Okay, and one of the ways that we engage them is through outreach and marketing campaigns and advertising campaigns and so forth, and engaging them into what's going on in their community. And then, of course, the third piece, empowering them. There was a Choose Peace, Stop Violence pledge that was posted on the Teen Space 211. I know they're using it in the schools. So those were the three main areas that everything would kind of fall under. So from those three, then we said, okay, well, what do we need to accomplish those goals and objectives? And one of the things, or two of the things actually, that we identified was, first, there needed to be a coordinator who would continue to move this initiative along. We did not want the conversation to stop. It was not just about throwing a summit, it was about continuing this conversation. And so the Jim Moran Foundation so generously, came to the table and said, okay, we want to fund the coordinator position, which is now working through United Way. And Nancy Vanneman, as you know, just started in that position. So Nancy will be leading the initiative as the coordinator. The second piece of that was, okay, how do we need to engage them with our marketing and advertising campaigns through social media and marketing, which we know is how our children communicate these days. So how do we get the communications piece? How do we continue the conversation? We had great op-eds when the summit was going on, great articles and stories. How do we keep that conversation going? Well, the outcome was we need a communications coordinator to continue that piece of it. That person, which also was part of the funding provided by the Jim Moran Foundation, will be housed at 211, which is where we have the portal of information, which is Teen Space 211. So So that's how we got to where we are today. And you know, it's interesting. I mean, I think the website, the Teen Space 211 website, is such a great resource. We actually, Teri had sent me an email just recently and talked about how a teacher used the Teen Space 211 website for her class. It was part of her lesson plan, okay? I should know that by heart. And so she said to the kids, okay, your assignment is to go to the Teen Space 211 website, pick 2 issues that you want to study, get all the information and get all the facts that you can on them, and then come back and report on those subjects. And they used it for that sort of thing, and they had to actually call the line, the 211 teen line that we also have. They had to call and listen to audio tapes on that subject as well, which is another way that parents and students and youth and providers can get information on the issues facing our youth. So they actually used it as a tool, which was, you know, absolutely wonderful, because it's exactly what we were hoping would happen. So I hope that more and more teachers learn about it. And Teri's team with with the core team and the Project Bridge has done such a wonderful job of helping us to spread the word in the schools about Teen Space. I was in Coral Springs High School the other day, and there were posters in the hallway. So, so I hope that helps bring us to where we are.
I think it does.
And just to piggyback on what Laurie's saying is, it's all about making it practical. And that example, where a teacher wrote in and said, here's what I've done with this information, I put it into the hands of students. And I've asked them to explore. So it's not just theoretical, it's not just a concept, but it's actually practical. And we need to continue to encourage students and teachers to engage in that process so that students know what to do if they're in a bind, if they're in a personal crisis of their own. But Project Bridge is all about really that whole school, whole community concept. Everybody gets involved, and we know that we cannot do it in a silo, and that was, of course, the premise of having everybody come together at the summit, the original summit, and take an action role within this particular project, but to keep it ongoing, and then to embed it in schools.
And we're sharing information about when people use the tools and use it well, so that others who may not be inherently as creative may learn from those who are.
Right.
And of course, you know, the government, whether it be in the form of the Children's Services Council, the county commission, or the school board, can't do it all. We have to have the parents and the students taking this lead role.
You know, I just wanted to say that I think what we're going to see next is one of the initiatives that came out of the summit when they were talking in their regional meetings was the use of youth advisory boards or youth ambassador boards. And I think that's an interesting piece that is now starting to really take off on its own. We're seeing a lot of the different cities that were present at the summit start their own youth advisory councils. I think, Cindy, you did a training on how to start one and so forth.
Cynthia Reynoso on my staff is like the queen of youth advisory boards, and she's been going all over the county helping people to understand how to really engage youth in a very constructive and productive way. It's fabulous, and I really encourage anybody who's interested to contact us to get involved in that.
I mean, it's their voice. I mean, we need to hear from them. You know, we as adults can sit around the table, but it's been a little while since I've been a teenager, unfortunately. But you know, they know how they want to hear things or how they want to see things and what's going to make them respond and what's going to empower them. And so I think that's critical. And that was one of the things with Teen Space that I thought was so unique. Teen Space was created by youth. We had 2 interns, a college student and a high school student, who actually went out and designed the website with the graphic designer, did focus groups with middle school age children and high school students. They were the ones who came up with the taglines, the name, all of it. It was all youth driven, which I think this whole initiative really needs to be. They're the ones who will get their parents involved.